Security guards marched Aisha Monroe through the gleaming lobby of the Elysian Hotel, their grip firm on her arms. Guests turned to stare, phones capturing the moment a black woman in casual clothes was forced toward the exit. Her expression remained composed, even as the indignity of the situation settled on her shoulders. "Ma'am, we've explained the policy. This establishment maintains certain standards," the lead guard announced, loud enough for everyone to hear. The irony hung in the air, thick and suffocating. Not a single person in that lobby, not the wide-eyed guests, not the stone-faced security team, not even the manager nodding in approval, recognized that they were ejecting Aisha Monroe, the CEO and founder who had built the Elysian Hotel from nothing. As the glass doors closed behind her, Aisha stood motionless on the sidewalk. December wind cut through her light jacket. She checked her watch, 7:48 p.m. The humiliation burned hot against the cold night air. 9 minutes later, she would return wearing a different expression. And everyone in that lobby would learn the true cost of their assumptions. This moment crystallized everything wrong with how society views excellence, how achievement and ownership become invisible when filtered through bias. As Aisha counted down those 9 minutes, a question formed. When you've created something magnificent only to be rejected by it, do you walk away, or do you show them exactly who you are? The answer would shake the Elysian Hotel to its foundation. Aisha Monroe hadn't always been a CEO. At 19, she cleaned hotel rooms, studying the hospitality industry from its foundation while pursuing her business degree at night. By 28, she'd risen to management. By 35, she'd secured enough investors to break ground on her vision, the Elysian Hotel. The 5-star establishment stood as Portland's crown jewel of hospitality. 12 stories of limestone and glass that merged luxury with accessibility. Where other elite hotels felt cold and unwelcoming, the Elysian welcomed guests of all backgrounds with warmth. Its 247 rooms combined opulence with thoughtful touches, locally sourced amenities, artwork from underrepresented communities, and staff hired specifically for their ability to make everyone feel valued. Hotels should reflect humanity's best qualities, Aisha often told her executive team. Generosity, recognition, dignity. Forbes had recently named Aisha among 40 black entrepreneurs reshaping American business. The Wall Street Journal praised her approach to inclusive luxury. Her management philosophy, detailed in her best-selling book, Room for Everyone, had become required reading in hospitality programs nationwide. Yet tonight, Aisha had deliberately shed the markers of her success. No designer suit, no executive access card. Her hair pulled back simply, wearing jeans and a modest sweater, she'd entered through the main doors like any guest might. These incognito visits had become her secret practice. Quarterly check-ins where she experienced her hotel as customers did. Did staff treat all guests equally, regardless of appearance? Did the amenities truly deliver comfort? Was the Elysian living up to its promise? Previous visits had revealed minor issues: inconsistent room service timing, a front desk clerk who was warmer to white guests, heating problems in the East Wing. Each discovery led to immediate improvements. Tonight should have been routine. Aisha had settled into a corner of the lobby, observing staff interactions while making notes on her phone. Nothing about her behavior warranted attention. Nothing except her appearance as an unaccompanied black woman in casual clothes, sitting quietly in a luxury hotel. Have you ever been in a place you built, only to be treated like you don't belong there? Have you created something meaningful, poured your essence into its very foundation, then watched as others decided you weren't worthy of its benefits? For Aisha Monroe, that contradiction became reality at 7:39 p.m. on a December evening, when security first approached her with suspicion in their eyes. 7:39 p.m., Darius Jenkins, night security at the Elysian, noticed the woman in the corner. 3 weeks into the job, he prided himself on identifying potential concerns. His gaze lingered on her casual clothes, her focused attention on her phone. Something felt off. He approached with practiced authority. "Excuse me, ma'am. Are you waiting for someone?" Aisha looked up, offering a professional smile. "No, just taking some notes." "Are you a guest here?" His tone sharpened slightly. "I'm actually because this lobby is reserved for guests and those with appointments." His hand moved to his radio, a subtle threat. Aisha straightened. I'm Aisha Monroe. I own this hotel. Darius's expression didn't change. Ma'am, I'll need to see some identification. 7:42 p.m. As Aisha produced her driver's license, a middle-aged couple at the check-in desk glanced over. The husband whispered something. His wife frowned. This doesn't indicate any connection to the Elysian, Darius said, handing back her ID. I'll need to contact my supervisor. Aisha remained calm. Please do. Though if you check the photo in the East Corridor, you'd see I'm the founder. A front desk clerk, Emma, watched the interaction while pretending to organize brochures. Her fingers hovered over her phone, recording a 10-second video. 7:45 p.m. Manuel Diaz, floor manager, strode across the marble lobby. At 43, he'd worked luxury hospitality for decades and considered himself an excellent judge of character. What seems to be the problem, he asked, directing the question to Darius rather than Aisha. This woman claims she owns the hotel. No reservation, no appointment. Manuel assessed Aisha, her jeans, simple sweater, department store boots. Nothing about her matched his mental image of the CEO he'd seen in promotional materials. Miss Monroe, Aisha Monroe, she said firmly. You're CEO. I've shown identification. Manuel's expression hardened. Ms. Monroe, our actual CEO, is a respected business leader. Impersonating her is a serious offense. I am not impersonating myself. Aisha's voice remained level, though her heart pounded. Call Richard in operations, or Patricia in HR. They can verify my identity immediately. 7:47 p.m. Four guests had now formed a loose semicircle, watching. A woman in a red coat filmed discreetly. By the elevators, a black couple exchanged knowing glances, the woman whispering, "Should we say something?" Manuel checked his tablet. There's no Aisha Monroe registered as a guest. There's no note about the CEO visiting today. I don't schedule my observation visits, Aisha explained. That defeats their purpose. The fluorescent light caught the perspiration on Manuel's forehead. He'd made his decision. Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the premises. This is absurd. Aisha's composure cracked slightly. I built this hotel. Security, please escort this woman out. 7:48 p.m. As Darius gripped her elbow, Aisha felt the weight of every eye in the lobby. The smoothness of the marble floor beneath her feet, marble she had selected from 3 options. The scent of the signature lobby fragrance she had approved after testing 15 alternatives. The desk clerk Emma lowered her head, unable to watch. The couple by the elevator whispered urgently. The businessman at the bar turned his chair for a better view. Manuel announced loudly, "The Elysian maintains strict security protocols for everyone's safety." The double meaning hung in the air, safety from people like her. As they reached the doors, Aisha locked eyes with a young black girl watching wide-eyed from beside her parents. The girl's expression reflected confusion, then understanding, then something worse. Recognition that this could happen to her too, someday. That final indignity, becoming a cautionary tale before a child's eyes, burned hotter than all the rest. The glass doors of the Elysian Hotel closed behind Aisha with a soft pneumatic hiss. Just like that, the founder stood outside her own creation, dismissed and discarded. Ma'am, you can return when you have legitimate business here, Darius said, his hand releasing her arm. The security guard avoided eye contact, already turning back toward the warmth inside. For a moment, Aisha couldn't move. The December air bit through her light sweater, but the cold barely registered. Standing on the sidewalk, she watched guests enter and exit, people welcomed into a space that had just rejected her. The irony crystallized. She had designed this entrance to be inviting for everyone. A valet glanced at her with mild curiosity before returning to his post. To him, she was just another person deemed unworthy of the Elysian's elegance. Aisha checked her watch. 7:49 p.m. Her phone buzzed. A congratulatory text about the hotel's nomination for the Inclusivity and Hospitality Award. The screen illuminated her face in the darkness, highlighting a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. This moment required a decision. She could call Richard, her COO. One word from him would send panicked staff scrambling to apologize. She could phone her attorney and initiate proceedings against her own establishment. She could walk away, nursing wounds that would never fully heal. Instead, she began to count. 1 minute passed. She thought about her grandmother, who had cleaned hotel rooms for 40 years, never once allowed to enter through the front doors. Build something different. she had told Aisha. 2 minutes. She remembered the investors who had questioned whether a black woman could attract the right clientele to a luxury property. Their doubts had fueled her determination. 4 minutes. She considered Manuel and Darius, not as villains, but as products of a system that taught them who belonged in luxury spaces and who didn't. The same system she had dedicated her career to dismantling. 6 minutes. She removed her casual sweater, revealing a silk blouse underneath. From her purse, she withdrew a small makeup bag. With precise movements, she applied lipstick using her phone's camera. 7 minutes. She unclipped her hair, letting it frame her face the way it did in her official portraits. She slipped on the blazer she'd carried in her oversized bag, black, tailored, undeniably expensive. 8 minutes. She straightened her posture, reclaiming the presence that commanded boardrooms and TED Talk stages. The transformation wasn't about looking wealthy. It was about becoming undeniable. 9 minutes. Aisha Monroe, CEO of Elysian Hotels International, recipient of the Forbes Excellence in Leadership Award, and rightful owner of every brick in the building before her, took a deep breath. The woman who had been ejected was an observer, collecting data, taking notes, improving systems from within. The woman who now walked toward those same glass doors was an executioner, prepared to cut away the infection that threatened everything she had built. At exactly 7:57 p.m., Aisha Monroe returned her hotel, not as a guest, not as an observer, but as its reckoning. The Elysian's glass doors parted with the same soft hiss that had dismissed her 9 minutes earlier. Now they admitted someone else entirely, a CEO in her full power. Heads turned as her heels clicked decisively across the marble floor she had selected, paid for, and approved. The blazer fit her perfectly. Her posture radiated authority. The lobby fell quiet, conversations fading mid-sentence. At the front desk, Emma froze, recognition dawning in her eyes. "Oh my God," she whispered. Manuel emerged from the manager's office, tablet in hand, responding to a commotion he didn't yet understand. His eyes swept past Aisha, then returned with growing horror. The tablet slipped from his grasp, clattering on the counter. "Miss Monroe," he stammered, color draining from his face. Aisha didn't acknowledge him. Instead, she walked to the center of the lobby and pressed a small remote in her pocket. The hotel-wide intercom system activated, a feature installed for emergency announcements. "Attention all Elysian Hotel staff," her voice echoed through every floor, every corridor, every room. "This is Aisha Monroe, Chief Executive Officer and Founder. I require all available personnel to report to the main lobby immediately." The effect was electric. Elevator doors opened, revealing wide-eyed staff members. Housekeepers emerged from service corridors. Restaurant servers appeared from the dining area. Within 3 minutes, 47 employees had gathered, confusion evident on their faces. Darius pushed through the growing crowd, stopping abruptly when he saw her. Recognition crashed over him like a wave. "Many of you don't know me by sight," Aisha began, her voice carrying without shouting. "That became painfully clear tonight when I was forcibly removed from this establishment, an establishment I conceived, financed, and built." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Guests had formed a ring around the edges, phones recording discreetly. The Elysian was founded on a simple principle: dignity for all who enter. It's engraved in the cornerstone. It's printed in your employee handbooks. It's the first line of our mission statement. Her gaze swept across the assembled staff, lingering briefly on Manuel and Darius. 9 minutes ago, that principle was violated. Not by a guest, not by an outsider, but by the very people entrusted to uphold it. The couple from the elevator had returned to the lobby. The husband nodded slowly, understanding dawning. "I visited tonight, as I often do, without announcement, without fanfare, to experience this hotel as our guests do. What I experienced instead was profiling, discrimination, and ultimately expulsion from the building that bears my signature on every paycheck issued." Manuel stepped forward. "Ms. Monroe, if I could explain, your actions have explained everything necessary." Her tone wasn't angry, which somehow made it worse. It was measured, deliberate, final. "The judgment you passed wasn't based on behavior, but on appearance. The assumptions you made weren't about safety, but about belonging." She turned to address the entire staff. "Effective immediately, all management and security personnel involved in this incident are terminated. This includes floor manager Manuel Diaz, Security Officer Darius Jenkins, and anyone who directly participated in my removal. Gasps echoed through the lobby. A housekeeper covered her mouth in shock. Those not directly involved will undergo mandatory retraining on our core values. Department heads will conduct comprehensive reviews of their team's adherence to our principles. The young black girl who had witnessed Aisha's ejection now watched wide-eyed, her expression transformed from earlier confusion to awe. For our guests, Aisha continued, I extend my personal apology. The scene you witnessed contradicts everything the Elysian stands for. All charges for tonight's accommodations are canceled. My team will process these adjustments immediately. The businesswoman at the bar stood up, initiating a slow, deliberate applause. Others joined, the sound building throughout the lobby. Manuel remained frozen, his career evaporating before his eyes. You can't just... I can, and I have. Aisha's voice remained level. Your personal belongings will be collected and delivered to you. HR will process your final pay. Please surrender your access cards to the front desk. As security badges clattered onto the counter, the power in the room visibly shifted. Staff members who had minutes ago followed Manuel's orders now avoided his gaze. Aisha turned to Emma, who had shrunk behind the reception desk. You recorded the incident on your phone. Emma nodded, trembling. Good. Send that recording to HR. Your honesty will be noted. The lobby had transformed. What began as a space of humiliation had become a forum for justice, swift, clear, and without compromise. By midnight, video clips of Aisha Monroe's return circulated across every platform. The hashtag Wrongfully Ejected topped trending charts, with viewers dissecting every moment of the confrontation. The raw footage from Emma's phone, showing Aisha's calm attempts to identify herself contrasted with security's dismissive response, garnered over 2 million views in less than 24 hours. Black CEO kicked out of her own hotel, returns to clean house. Read headlines across major news outlets. Morning shows booked interviews. Industry publications requested statements. The moment transcended mere viral status. It became a cultural flashpoint about belonging, power, and accountability. 3 days after the incident, Aisha addressed a packed press conference in the Elysian's Grand Ballroom. What happened to me happens to Black Americans daily, just without cameras rolling and without the power to respond as I did. She explained, this isn't about one hotel or 2 employees. It's about examining who we assume belongs in which spaces. Rather than distance herself from the controversy, Aisha leaned into it. She announced the Belonging Initiative, a comprehensive overhaul of the Elysian's operations. Every employee would undergo immersive bias recognition training, developed in partnership with leading civil rights organizations. Anonymous guests from diverse backgrounds would regularly test staff responses, with results tied directly to compensation structures. A newly created Director of Inclusive Experience position would report directly to Aisha, with authority to implement changes across all departments. The hotel industry took notice. Within weeks, 3 major international chains announced similar reforms. The American Hotel and Lodging Association invited Aisha to lead a task force on industry-wide discrimination prevention. Luxury properties across the country began reviewing their own security protocols, questioning whose safety they actually protected. 6 months later, the transformed Elysian Hotel reopened its lobby with a powerful installation, a wall displaying thousands of accounts from people who had been made to feel unwelcome in public spaces. Beside each story hung a small mirror, forcing viewers to see themselves reflected in these experiences. The new staff underwent rigorous scenario training. Role-playing exercises placed employees in difficult situations, teaching them to question assumptions before making judgments. Guest feedback mechanisms expanded beyond satisfaction to specifically measure feelings of welcome and belonging. We're creating what should have existed all along, Aisha explained in her Forbes cover interview. A luxury experience that doesn't confuse exclusivity with exclusion. The most meaningful change came quietly, without publicity. Aisha established the Monroe Hospitality Scholarship for students from underrepresented backgrounds, funding education for those who might otherwise be locked out of the industry. The first class of 20 scholars included a young man named Marcus, Darius's younger brother, who had applied without mentioning the connection. My brother's mistake taught our whole family something important. Marcus told Aisha when she personally welcomed him to the program, "I want to build something different." 1 year after the incident, the Elysian Hotel received the Lodging Excellence Award for Inclusive Hospitality, an award created in response to Aisha's advocacy. The property's occupancy rates had increased by 23%. Employee retention improved dramatically. The waiting list for employment applications grew longer each month. What began as 9 minutes of humiliation had transformed an industry. At the award ceremony, Aisha accepted the honor with characteristic grace. The measure of an institution isn't whether it makes mistakes, it's whether it learns from them. The measure of leadership isn't authority, but accountability. And the measure of progress isn't what we say, but who feels welcome in the spaces we create. Aisha Monroe's story resonates because it exposes a fundamental truth. Dignity isn't something others grant us. It's something we must sometimes reclaim through decisive action. What happened at the Elysian Hotel occurs in boardrooms, stores, neighborhoods, and institutions across America every day. Black excellence becomes invisible when filtered through biased perceptions. Achievement doesn't shield you. Ownership doesn't protect you. Education doesn't exempt you. The difference in Aisha's case wasn't just her position of power, it was her willingness to use that power to create lasting change rather than seek personal vindication. True leadership transforms individual injustice into collective improvement. While firing those responsible addressed the immediate wrong, her comprehensive reforms ensured the same mistakes wouldn't repeat with different faces. Racial profiling remains embedded in American life, a constant calculation of who belongs where, who deserves what, who needs to justify their presence. It taxes the spirit, drains potential, and diminishes us all. When we allow bias to determine belonging, we sacrifice innovation, perspective, and basic human connection. If this story moved you, consider 3 actions. First, examine spaces you control. Workplaces, community organizations, family gatherings. Who feels automatically welcome? Who must continuously prove they belong? Your attention to these patterns can disrupt them. Share this video to start conversations about belonging in your own circles. Second, when you witness someone being questioned or removed from a space based on appearance rather than behavior, document it. Your phone camera might provide the evidence needed for accountability. Your voice saying this isn't right might be the only support they receive. Third, support Black-owned businesses and institutions deliberately and consistently. Like this video, subscribe to Black Narratives, and comment with your experiences of reclaiming spaces where others questioned your presence. The most powerful response to being ejected from spaces, whether literal or metaphorical, isn't always immediate confrontation. Sometimes it's strategic return. Sometimes it's systematic change. Sometimes it's creating new spaces where everyone's dignity remains intact. Aisha Monroe didn't just reclaim her hotel that night. She reclaimed the principle upon which she built it. Everyone deserves to be recognized for who they are, not judged by how they appear. What spaces will you reclaim today?